Hello everyone, welcome back to MG Owners Australia. I'm Dimitri. Today I wanted to talk to you about fuel efficiency of MG HS Essence 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine. This is not an all-wheel drive model and this is not a hybrid. This is just a normal petrol model. So what kind of fuel efficiency, what kind of fuel economy, what kind of things can you expect on that front if you are buying this kind of vehicle? Let's talk about it. So MGHS Essence offers you, as I discussed plentifully kind of on my channel, a lot of luxury, a lot of bang for the buck, so to speak. But what about the engine? How thirsty is it? How accurate is electronics that's predicting fuel spend and other kind of things here? Well, I will tell you firsthand. I've owned the car for 4 months and performance has varied. As with any car, performance varies quite dramatically based on how you do your driving. Specifically, in my experience at least, two factors play a massive role. First factor is how much highway driving are you doing versus stop and go of city driving. That's the first factor. Second factor is how often do you run air conditioning versus not running air conditioning. Because if you're running air conditioning, everybody knows it. I think it's a common knowledge, and here it's not an exception. Your fuel spend increases by the car. Fuel consumption increases. So, getting straight into it, the tank of the car is probably, by my calculations, by what I can see here, filling up fully at a petrol station. The fuel tank must be in this car about 50 liters. I'm thinking, because kind of almost on empty, filling up to full when the thing stops filling in any more petrol. It is, as you can see, at about 45 liters. This car MGHS takes 95 plus fuel, 95, 98, but it doesn't take the cheap versions like 91 fuel. And I know that in Europe I was told fuel is only 94 plus, if I'm not mistaken, so I guess you don't have that problem. But for us here in Australia and for people planning to buy the car in Australia, please factor in that it's not going to be the cheaper version of fuel. It's actually going to be the more expensive one, all right? So about 50 liters, full tank, expensive fuel, about $100 with the current prices at the very least, recording this in March 2022. Now, what about the fuel efficiency? So, once you filled up the tank fully, the car has here a menu that shows to us that it projects that it should be able to keep going for about 520 and with change kilometers, which would be nice, to be honest with you, for city driving. 520 for 50 liters, that would be actually quite nice, because it sort of suggests to us that it has about 10 liters per 100 kilometers spent. Well, in my experience over here, I can tell you, completely proven now fact, checked it. In the city driving with intermittent air conditioning, I would say more often than not, it does run with air conditioning, and I do not do practically, well, in this streak, kind of in this period of time as I was recording this, preparing to record this specific video, I did not drive on the highway. This is realistic city driving spend for you, you know. It only made close to 400 kilometers, only made about 390 kilometers, which I would honestly say is slightly disappointing. I know that the tank is small, that it's not a massive tank, it's only 50 liters, but I'm also not towing anything, I'm not doing anything super particular. The air conditioning is not running on full all the time blasting, I would not say so. Even when it's on, it is rather modest, kind of like, I don't know, on 3, 4 I'm running air conditioning just kind of to get a bit of a fresh air into the car. I don't know if it matters. It also has not been the particularly hottest season right now for this, again, streak of time, for this period of time that I was recording this, reset the timer, reset the counter of the fuel, and was preparing to record this information video for you. Only 390 kilometers with change. It's not super impressive, but let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? What can you compare it to? Because obviously it's not just that number that matters, but it's also what are we comparing against, the fuel tank capacity. If the fuel tank was much bigger, it would have been a disaster. If the fuel tank is only 50 liters-ish, then maybe it's not so disastrous, but I'd say it's on a thirsty side. Correct me if I'm wrong, let me know what you think. It's a turbo petrol, maybe that's where all this consumption is going to, because it's turbo, but I do not know. I will check back in with you on the information about fuel consumption in my wife's ZST, MG ZST, our second MG car in the family, because I have not had a chance to properly test it similarly to this MGHS. But with MGHS, I definitely would again highlight to you that this is not a car that could be advertised ever, honestly, to you, and a dealer will not tell you about it. It cannot be advertised as an economical car. It's expensive fuel, the higher grades of fuel, already by definition expensive, and it is also not particularly efficient. I do not think that I personally, having seen this, having now reported on this, analyzed this in my head, I do not think that I can rely on those numbers. Those numbers are way off, way off. The car is thinking it can do a lot better than it actually can, which is not even by some, 30, 40 kilometers margin, I suppose, of the inaccuracy, but by quite a big margin. So these are my findings that I'd like to share with you today, my friends. Take it for what it is. Doesn't mean that the car is bad. Doesn't mean that the car is particularly good either. It just means that it's not particularly efficient and not particularly cheap to run when it comes to petrol, specifically petrol. Thank you for tuning in today. That's all that's going to be today in this little video. It was made for a specific purpose, and I'll be speaking with you again about something else, MGHS or ZST related, next week. Thanks again. Subscribe if you haven't already. Talk to you next time. Bye for now.